wild goose chase. That man's in trouble.
Every second mattered.
He's going to be out of oxygen.
But it was too late. On that day, 64-year-old George Treadaway took his last breath.
Treadaway is the second person in just over a year to drown in a car in Georgia as 911 dispatchers search for their location.
By law, there's supposed to be a committee ensuring Georgia's 911 system is up to date. But the governor is only now restarting that overnight group after the 11 Alive investigators told his administration the governor was violating the law by failing to even appoint it.
Well, then why appoint a commission to create a 99-page report and offer 8 different recommendations if you're not going to do anything
about that? You should come to some other venue rather than this one.
Our chief investigator, Brendan Keefe, holds the powerful accountable.
The subject called 911. He stated that he didn't know where he was at, that his car is in the water and sinking. He's going to be out of oxygen. And I was unable to ping his location from our system.
At this point, it ain't good.
I've tried calling him back numerous times, and I'm not able to get him back.
George Treadaway was lost on the line.
This ain't no wild goose chase. That man's in trouble.
Gordon County 911 won't release his call because they say he drowned on the phone with the dispatcher. But the county didn't even send anyone out to search the floodwaters for his sunken car until his family reported George missing nearly 5 hours later.
Gordon County 911.
We're trying to find my daddy-in-law, and he usually takes Reese Station Road, but we know that's flooded, but we can't get him on the phone or nothing. We'll know if he's been involved in a wreck or if y'all know anything about him.
Okay, we've not had any wreck.
Yeah, he's on oxygen, and I know his oxygen tank's got to be near empty.
This is where George Treadaway called 911 from his sinking car. But to the 911 system, George's phone was invisible, and so was he. Dispatchers couldn't see this location on their screens. Instead, they were beginning more than 5 miles away and a 10-minute drive. It was the cell phone tower location. George and his phone briefly showed up here because the tower address is often the first thing a dispatcher sees, and in this case, it was all they had to go on because George and his phone weren't here either. So the 911 dispatcher called the cell phone carrier. The operator there tried to ping George's phone, but it was likely already underwater. The last known location of George's phone was more than 3 miles away from the tower, in the other direction. The cell phone carrier had George's last location here, but this is still more than 3 miles away from where George Treadaway was fighting for his life. Rescuers had 2 addresses to begin searching for a drowning man. Both turned out to be dead wrong.
Did you get the tower hit off of it all? Because I am showing that the device was 3.39 miles from that tower to the southwest.
Show any water around in that area?
There's no lake or nothing around there. It's just all pine trees.
What did he say when he called in?
He said, I'm stuck in the water.
There was no water on that wooded hill because George called 911 from the flooded valley 3 miles away.
We found out the next day that there had been a 911 call.
But somehow Gordon County dispatchers didn't know one of their own 911 operators had already talked with a drowning George Treadaway hours earlier.
He did tell the dispatcher that the car was filling up with water, and they could hear that on the 911 tape.
I got a bad feeling about this. Something's wrong.
Okay. We'll continue to look for him.
George's body was pulled from his sunken car 2 days after he called 911 for help.
We were very disappointed in the 911 system.
I'm trying to find you on a map.
You can't find the address? No. For what address, ma'am?
Give me the address one more time. It's not working.
The 11 Alive investigators discovered cell phone callers are lost on the line by 911 every day.
They received a call from a female that said that she was in the lake and losing air.
A year ago, Chanel Anderson was trapped in her sinking SUV in Cherokee County, but her 911 call got picked up by the wrong call center in Fulton County.
Yeah, we got one vehicle. Looks like it's all the way underwater right now.
They found her too late to save her life.
Your own commission said 911 is broken in Georgia. What are you going to do to fix it?
Well, 911 systems are run by local jurisdictions.
A year ago, we asked the governor about this 911 modernization report he commissioned, a report completed while Chanel Anderson and George Treadaway were both still alive.
Your commission recommended that there be a state agency that oversees 911. Are you in favor of that?
Well, I haven't made a decision on that.
We asked the governor and his staff the same questions about his 911 commission report again and again, 9 separate times via email and in person over 12 months. After a year of no answers and another death, the investigators caught up with Governor Deal at a transportation news conference.
I asked you a year ago, I'll ask you again, have you done anything with your own 911 commission report?
We have put funding into 911 for local communities, but as you know, those are operated by local systems of government.
Well, then why appoint a commission to create a 99-page report and offer 8 different recommendations if you're not going to do anything
about that? You should come to some other venue rather than this one. If you want to ask about what we've talked about here today, I'll be glad to answer your question, but that is not what we're talking about.
These people died on the roads.
I understand that, and we are concerned about that, and we're trying to do what we can about it. But you're here asking questions about nothing that we're talking about today.
How many more of your constituents have to die before you take 911 modernization seriously?
I don't mind answering some of y'all's questions if you want to.
And the governor walked away from our questions, but we asked his staff why he appeared to be breaking a long-standing Georgia law requiring the governor to appoint 12 members to a permanent 911 advisory committee, and why that state committee hasn't met in years. Now, after all of our questions over a year, the governor is in the process, finally, of appointing members to that committee. The first thing on their agenda, according to the governor's office, the 911 Modernization Commission's recommendations.
So bottom line, I'm still trying to just wrap my head around this. There's technology that allows Uber, for instance, to know where my phone is when I call. So what's the problem?
Yeah, doesn't work that way. Since 1996, they've been using the same technology, bottom line. So some local inventors essentially saw our investigation on the front page of USA Today, and they set out to solve the problem. Tomorrow night at 11, we put their invention to the test at the precise locations where George Treadaway and Chanel Anderson called for help.
We believe we could solve the problem of 911 location right now.
And we'll have that story tomorrow night at 11.
I look forward to it.
It's Possible Solution.
All right. Thank you, sir.